Good evening. Tonight, what we want to do is to be able to talk directly to all the people in the great state of Georgia. And we want to be able to make for sure that you understand that the rest of the country, especially us here in the Southwest region, here in the great state of Texas, Dallas, Texas, to be specific, we have your back. We want to support you in the endeavor of you all choosing the next people who are going to be able to lead the Senate and help the current administration in power. So what we'd like is for our panel tonight to be able to discuss the things that we see. We know that COVID has been flaring up here. We know that there's a housing crisis, that the CDC's deadline on their moratorium is ending at the end of this month. We know that Trump tried to just come in with the Supreme Court, try to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. We know, unfortunately, that came from Texas. That's not a representative of everybody in Texas. Unfortunately, sometimes the elected officials, they are able to request things that the rest of the people may not be asking for. But we're glad that the Supreme Court saw fit to be able to say, oh, no, Texas, you don't have standing. Basically, it's not going to happen. And so what we'd like the panel to be able to do tonight, we have people from all around the country, from North Carolina to Louisiana to us here in Texas. We'd like to be able to talk about how we can support the people in Georgia and what the awesome responsibility that they have to be able to go out and make for sure that this Biden-Harris ticket has the power. That's the underlying thing that we're talking about here. It's just power to be able to make for sure that they can bring the agenda. They went out, they campaigned, they voted. The American people have voted and said, we want a change. And so what we want to do is speak directly to Georgia to be able to say, to realize that change, we need you, Georgia, to be able to go out and be able to vote. Early voting, I believe, has already started. If you registered to vote, that was done on December the 5th. 30 days from then is going to be January the 5th. January the 5th, write that down. I'm going to say it one more time because they say in advertising you got to say something 3 times, remember. January the 5th of 2021, we need you all to go out and vote. Not as if your life depends on it, but your life does depend on it. The next 4 years of this country rest with you, Georgia. So we got Georgia on our mind tonight.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to this town hall in which we have gathered to encourage our brothers and sisters in Georgia to vote and to share our feelings on why it's so important for them to vote. My name is Deborah Dennis, and I am hosting this event with my co-host, Cranston Akimalon.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, and it's 6 of us on the call, and we're gonna go through and introduce ourselves and explain what you guys. But first and foremost, before we do that, and I go any further, I just want to sincerely apologize on behalf of the state of Texas for them trying to disenfranchise all of the votes and the way that they treated Georgia. It was uncalled for, and our Attorney General had no right, I guess I could take this off. Our Attorney General had no right to use our resources to do that, and we were certainly upset with him for doing that. And we sincerely apologize for that, but we wanted to let you know that we support you in this endeavor. We know how difficult it is. We understand that the weight of the country is resting on your shoulders and how much pressure that must be right now. I want to congratulate you all on making Georgia blue, turning it blue. And we're hoping that you all will come through because there are so many reasons that this race is important and that your vote matters. So I will pass it to Cranston and then to Brenda and Representative Lorraine Birabille. and Kafani Smalls, and Ali Bet if you're ready at that time.
Good evening. And it's definitely a joy to be here this evening, to be able to share some of our thoughts and be able to, as Ms. Deborah Dennis was saying, support the people out in Georgia, because that's unfortunate. We would have to go in and apologize for something that somebody in our state did, but we saw that the Supreme Court, they got it right and said, you know what, you don't even have standing. That's the good thing about laying out a law. You have to have a sequence of events to go on. And when they realized that, you know what, Texas, you may have an opinion, but you don't have standing, so this is not going to work. We're glad that they went in and said that, legitimized the win of President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. And again, Georgia stepped up, stepped out, showed out since 1992 that the state hadn't gone for a Democratic candidate. So we definitely appreciate the people in Georgia going out to be able to show that they have a voice, they want it to be heard, and we're here to support you.
Okay, Brenda.
Hello, I'm Brenda Reddick Smalls. I'm extremely interested in all things, political, all things that have a justice, rights lawyer. I've litigated voting rights, employment law, civil rights, housing law, and too often it's like pushing a snowball up a mountain in hell to try to get things changed in the courts and also with people who hold and wield power. So I'm just interested. I'm just an interested person here, listening.
Lorraine.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Representative Lorraine Bearbill, and I have the honor of representing a neighborhood I've called home for 20 years in the state legislature. And I do join Deborah and many of the comments that have been said before this. I want you to know in Georgia, we're not all like Ken Paxton. We're not all like Greg Abbott. And so the shining example that you all have set for the nation and the power that our vote actually has when it is counted is incredible. And so one, I want to thank you for what you've already done, essentially helping us save the country by electing Joe and Kamala. But now our work is not done and we need you to come back. And it was mentioned before, there is so much weight riding on this election. Warnock's name might be on the ballot. Ossoff's name might be on the ballot, but it's all of our lives that are on the line. So we need you to get out and vote.
Kafani.
Hello. Hello, once again, my name is Kafani Reddick Smalls. I'm a progressive Democrat here in the state of Louisiana. And once again, I would like to start off congratulating the mail-in ballots in Georgia already setting new records already of mail-in ballots already have started coming in, which bodes well for Democrats. As somebody that's heavily on social media, I understand the presence that our party has over making people's influential decisions. And if there's anything that we can do as a people to move forward, we should definitely do that, and the time is now.
The people that are on this call are all, there she is. Before we do that, Alibet Reddix.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be a part of this national forum and to be joined with my family and my friends and my colleagues. I tell you, I was so excited that I was working through to get to, I'll put you on Zoom, the patients start hearing everything. I was cutting out lights just to get here because it's so important that I join my voice, join my heart, my soul with you Georgians and the rest of us, because this moment in time is like no other. I was so impressed, as my nephew said, about how the turnout now. They always said in the off season we wouldn't vote, but it was so awesome to see how many more people are voting now than for the president? Because this time is the most important time of our existence. So my name is Oliveth Reddix. I used to be a politician. I was a former police juror, but my season I ended this past year. And but I joined my heart and my soul with all the workers, and I joined forces with all who encourage you Georgians to go out. You all are on the forefront right now. You all are Tuskegee Airmen. You all are the all the ones who went before us. We stand on your shoulders and we're pushing you on. We're saying, listen, this is our time. This is our place. This is our opportunity. Don't lose it and don't give in to that old dragon. That's it.
Thank you very much, everybody who gave that introduction. And we can see the passion and feel it in your voice. This election is so important, our sisters and brothers in Georgia. We got an email from Biden, and what he said was, one of the reasons why this election is so important, number one, it is imperative that we take back the Senate. And he said that would be his best chance to pass strong COVID relief, to rebuild our economy, and begin to unite our country. And on January 5th, Georgians, with the vote that you all cast to send Ossoff and Warnock to the Senate, will be influential in him achieving his goals. So those are the subjects that we want to talk about today. COVID relief, rebuilding our economy, beginning to unite our country again, because we are so divided. And those are the important things that we want to share with you from a Texas. We have people here from Texas, Monroe, Louisiana, and North Carolina. Dallas, 3 people are here from Dallas. And again, we are so sorry what our Attorney General, that coup that he tried to orchestrate. I want to start with the Senate. And I'd like to ask Brenda to share what we're up against if we don't take back the Senate.
So I think we all know, not even from a constitutional standpoint, that if you don't take back the Senate, then those persons, that party that holds the majority in the Senate, first of all, they control, the majority leader controls when things are brought to the floor. They control whether or not a bill moves forward through the Senate, whether or not there are negotiations, whether or not they even meet. So if you don't take back the Senate, then you're looking at partisan politics at its height, which would mean that McConnell or his ilk or minions controls how all bills are handled, how every policy that the new administration wants to push forward gets handled. Now, the president does have executive powers, and almost as if he is afraid, and I know we're recording, but he is afraid to wield the power that the Republicans wielded with the executive, orders. And you can, anybody can weigh in on that. But executive orders are designed, and they are embedded in his constitutional powers. They are designed to let the executive branch wield power around Congress and also to do what a president does. So if the Senate does not turn over, and if there is no Democratic control, Biden still has a lot of power in his hands. But as I said, when I watched the the broadcast where he says, you know, he's not going to go above the Constitution. It is in the Constitution. But that said to me, he's not going to be willing to do certain things. So for example, just a prime example, the military was integrated based on an executive order. A president issued an executive order which said, we're not going to have a segregated military. That was an executive order. That wasn't Congress, even though Congress controls the appropriation budget. So, I mean, while we're debating that, you know, Deborah, we also have to look at what kind of pressure we put on this administration and make the honeymoon period one that means this is what we want and this is what we expect from you, right? Not just to stop because we don't get everything we want from our electorate.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. If you can remember when Obama was in office, he was a lame duck president. And the same guy that's heading up the Senate right now, Mitch McConnell, vowed to ruin his presidency. And he did really good. He did a good job of it. But that was his #1 goal, and had the audacity to articulate that to him. My goal is to make sure you are just a one-term president. But what he didn't realize is that Obama was a constitutional lawyer, and he used that pen and his executive power to get a lot of things done. But he could have gotten so much more done in it.
Yes.
Now, we have control of the House, but we don't have control of the Senate. And that is why the weight of this election rests on your shoulder. When I went to bed on the night of the election, Ossoff wasn't in a runoff. When I woke up the next morning, he was in the runoff. And I know people don't like to mix religion and politics, but the first thing out of my mouth was, thank you, Jesus. Because we needed that. We needed him to be in the runoff. And I don't know very much about the two candidates that are running against Ossoff and Warnock. But what I do know is from what I've seen, they've already been in the Senate. And they worked for their own enrichment. Producing, selling stock. So they won't lose money. But they're not working for us. And that's why it's so important that when Biden gets into office on the 5th of January, he has the Senate as well as the House. Does anybody else want to add anything to that?
One little thing, the thing about Loeffler is that she is part owner of a team which is composed of African Americans, and she, you know, so you do know enough about her that she decried this kneeling for social justice. She called Warnock, what did she call him? Adherent of Pastor Wright and supporter of Black thugs. So you do know, right, that she's used a racial card, and she's opposed, right, criminal justice reform because the athletes were talking about kneeling, and because she owned a team, she talked, you know, as we say, trash. So you know enough to know she's not above playing the race card, okay? And
right. And another thing, they have not recognized or accepted the fact that Biden is the president-elect. These people are still waiting for this last-ditch effort that's going to happen. What's that date, Lorraine? The 6th of the 5th of January. What is the date when the
6th? I believe it's the 6th.
They think that they're going to pull off another coup. We earn the right to have a choice and a say in American society. Not only did our forefathers die, and they're trying to decry their contribution to this country right now, not only did that happen, but we have many civil rights leaders that lost their lives fighting for our freedom. So it's in addition to there's COVID reliefs. We just heard today or yesterday, how they knew that this disease was going to kill up a lot of people. They knew that. And what did they say? Infect them all. We want mass infection.
Herd immunity.
Herd immunity.
Yes.
So since you brought that up, Tafani, why don't you talk about herd immunity and what would happen if we don't get the release? How many people are dying? And why is it so important that we hold on to the House so we can make some things happen, get some things passed in relations to that relief?
A couple things. First off, back to what my mother was saying about Loeffler. She had a picture with a known white supremacist circulating the internet over the weekend. Somebody that was in the skinheads and the KKK that she seemed to denounce. But the problem with that is, even if she didn't know him, these people are comfortable enough to be next to her, meaning that she stands for what he stands for, and you're guilty by association, you know, which is something that Black people deal with all the time. Purdue is in the insider trading. He's up to his neck in trouble right now for faulty stock tips and making money off the market. Okay, that's one thing. Back to herd immunity. Donald Trump hired a radiologist to come on board of the COVID relief team. I forget what his name is.
Azar. You talking about Azar?
Right, yeah, he's a quack, okay? He had a theory that the only way that you could get the coronavirus under control is infecting all the people that you could. So basically, the more people that got sick and caught coronavirus, the easier it will be to control, which is totally crazy. I want to say this too. The Republicans just flat out are not going to work with the Democrats. They're just not. They've proven over the course about the 9 things that help the American people that are not on their agenda, and it's not focused on big business. So we don't need to go into this thinking that McConnell is going to do anything other than what he's shown over the last 8 years, which is destroying anything that's good, especially for our community. And the last thing that I want to say is, we as Black people definitely need to stop not asking for things specifically for us. So if y'all don't remember, right before the election, they had this thing where the people in the media, Ice Cube and some other people were discussing with Trump about a platinum plan, okay? A plan for Trump that they came up with to inject money into the African-American community, right? And Ice Cube had a plan, something for Black America, a plan for Black America too. But the point is, the Republicans were at least smart enough to lie and say, we have something specifically for us. So when we win these seats in Georgia, which I really feel like we will, we need to go to them with a plan and something outlined specifically to help our community, our constituents, the people who Biden said that put him in office and he had our back. We need to make sure that he goes through with these promises, him and Camilla. You know, we don't want to see another mass incarceration bill come down the pipe. We don't want to see big businesses get tax cut while they squabbling over $1,200 with people that can't eat. Like we don't want this fight between progressives and moderate Democrats, because the progressive Democrats want to stand up and say, hey, we want to be treated a certain way. That's all I have to say.
Okay, that was very passionate, and we understand that one of the things that we have to do is support Georgia in getting out to vote because it is so important. Now, there were a lot of people across the country sending contributions and money, but what we wanted to do was for you to see our faces and to see how important it is and how much we support you. We can contribute to the DNC and to those candidates, but our voice, when you hear our voice, you know our voices collectively are there to support you, urge you to get out to vote. Now, one of the things, and Dr. Reddix has a community garden type event on Saturdays, and which goes to the economic conditions of our status as Black people. Now, they have $900 billion that they're trying to divvy out across the whole country. We have more people on unemployment, and I think, as a matter of fact, all of us on this call are self-employed. We're entrepreneurs. So, Alibet, can you share with us the impact of having another 4 years where the Senate has tied the president's hand and he can't push his economic package through?
I have a friend who says these words, I tell you, hon. That's a talk of exasperation. Um, what really gets me, I want to go back to what my sister referenced when she said, I think that the president-elect Biden is waiting he's strategically waiting before he lays his hammer. That's why you didn't hear him say anything at all about Trump until he got it. And then he started laying down. And then you also saw he began to bring in people who were of that same environment that he came from that was so successful. So I really am looking forward to him doing those kind of things. And I didn't notice him saying that, in other words, there are more cars. He has more cars, in my opinion, that are hidden, that he's going to be using as soon as he gets the proper things in place before. Now, Brenda Ray is saying that even if he doesn't have it, he has executive privilege, and I believe that he will go there, but it's just like playing cards. Without the correct number of people in place, it makes our journey harder. And as a small business owner, it is very, very frustrating to realize that people who own franchises and teams and insider trading who are holding the funds from those of us who work by our sweat and our brow. And so it's very important, Georgia, that you realize that you've got to put a friend in your corner. If you allow, if you say, they're going to do what they want to do. I've heard that so long from us and from young people. But at this point, every vote counts because you've got to vote as if your vote is the one that's going to put the friend in the house. Because if you allow Trumpism to remain, if you allow the Senate to remain with the rich boys and with the rich girls and with the people who think that you are, who receive rich welfare, but who don't want to take care of the ordinance of America, which is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and to take care of the population. If you allow these two people to get in office, to deadlock, where we no longer can, where oh my goodness, where it's such a, in other words, we're right there at the helm, but we can't get over because they're going to deadlock everything. This is not their time. This is our time. This is your time. It's your time. You know, we stuck it to them. I wanted to say this out. Do you remember when Trump made the statement that if he lost, he would lose to the worst candidate ever? Newsflash, you lost to the worst. And that's just eating him up. We need to send, and then you know what else eats him up? The reason why they're trying to tie up all those votes in our area, because we sent the message. They discounted us out. They said we're not going to come out. So at this time, young people, at this time, my people, at this time, my comrades of color, at this time, all those who believe in the American ideal that it's one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, it's your turn to continue to put that stick to them that says, no, not this time. So if the Senate is deadlocked, then your fight will nearly be in vain, because it will just be by the mercy, by that what they can, you know, what they can drag out. But if you allow us to have a majority, then as Kafani says, we can actually have expectations. We can actually, you know, put in there that there are things that we expect them because we gave you this victory. So your voice is your right, is your will. But on top of that, you're carrying the rest of us on your back.
Right.
You can
And we are so appreciative.
you carry
Lorraine, there are, speaking on the economy, we have small businesses that are suffering. In Texas, we have food lines that I'm just praising God that I don't have to be there for 2 or 3 days trying to collect those boxes. And I trust Biden when he says that he's going to do something about that. Our unemployment is record. We have record unemployment. So why don't you share with Georgia the importance of Biden getting the Senate when he takes office so that he can work to ameliorate some of these problems?
It's very clear. I think all of us agree. We don't want a repeat of 2010. What happened in 2010? In 2008, we made history collectively. We elected the first Black president. However, in the midterm election that immediately followed, he did not have the support necessary legislatively to pass anything in terms of the agenda. And so what we want to do is make sure that President Biden and Vice President Harris have every tool at their disposal. As we know, many hands make light work. And so we really want to give them the best position possible, because essentially what the Republicans are trying to do at this point is nullify your vote. Our Attorney General tried a coup d'etat, essentially, that did not work, thankfully, but they are still at it. They are still trying to nullify your vote as we speak. People talk about my vote doesn't matter. Let me tell you, there are conservative think tanks that literally all they're doing all day is thinking of new and inventive ways to scratch you from the voter rolls, to purge you, to prevent your vote that you've legally cast from being counted. And so why would they be doing that? The reason why they would do that is because they know if that's the case, then they can control things like redistricting in elections that are not always determined in presidential elections. A lot of these elections are local elections. And so just as we are obviously thrilled that we elected Joe and Kamala, you know, we're not gonna get the agenda that we thought we were gonna get unless we win the Senate seat. And that what that means is, again, our work is not done. We have to come back. We have to vote like we've never been seen before. Obviously, mad kudos to Stacey Abrams and Fair Fight and everyone who's been involved in the effort to flip Georgia. But at the end of the day, if we don't have the Senate, first of all, the judiciary. You know, we know that we had someone who replaced Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who frankly has a mindset that is not even considerate of our 400 years in this country. We have a governor of Georgia who was the former Secretary of State, who literally did everything that he could to prevent people like us from voting in Georgia. And so we know that if we do not take this Senate, small business owners from having a situation there where they can be successful. They're preventing people from achieving their dreams. You can't even think about pursuing your dreams if you're waiting in a food line to see if you can get a food box just to feed your family. And so that is really where we are, and that's what's at stake. We know that the Trump administration, and certainly I definitely think that Speaker Pelosi has done everything that she can, and there was a substantial relief package, but it was not the relief package that she or other Democrats sought, frankly. It was a relief package that was passed through support from Republicans and Democrats. What we know is, comparatively speaking, if you were to invest in programs such as unemployment benefits, that has a much larger economic impact than these $1,200 stimulus payouts. What we know is when we have a housing crisis, which is where we are now, where people essentially are on the eve of being evicted from their homes, whether that's through foreclosure or through them being a tenant and being foreclosed from the property that they're renting, we are already in an emergency, and we're on the precipice of disaster. And so that sadly is where we are if we do not retake the Senate, because in 2010, and I started with that and I'll wrap up. I know I've been going for a little bit, but I just want to make sure people understand the importance of this and rounding it back out. In 2010, when we lost the majority, we lost our ability to control the kind of policies that we wanted to see. And from that point on, they were the party of no. They said that their goal was to make him an ineffective president, a failed president. And in some part, they succeeded. Certainly, proud of the work that he was able to get done. But when we were in 2008, he inherited a crisis himself. And I know personally people who are still in their homes today because of some of the legislation that he passed to save people from being foreclosed on. Now, here we are, fast forward 10 years later, from 2010 to 2020, and we are in a similar, if not a more dire situation. And if we do not have leadership that is willing and able to go in and solve these complex problems, we are headed down a point that, some might say is a point of no return. But I agree with the panel, I think that we can do this, which is why we're all talking about it. But once we do win Georgia and once we do have the Senate, then it's also our responsibility to hold elected leadership accountable. Because again, we won't get what we want if that happens. And again, in 2010, the seats that were lost were blue dogs. These were people who weren't necessarily with a more progressive agenda, frankly. Of healthcare package that so many of us actually did support. So we have to hold people accountable once we have, once the power is in our hand.
Thank you. Thank you. You said a lot of things. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight that you said was that being a lame duck president is not fun. And when you are a lame duck president, you cannot really serve your constituents, because the people that are in control are going to do everything in their power to make sure that you are unsuccessful. Lorraine, that said that that Trump said that he didn't want to lose to somebody like Joe Biden. And then he had to turn around and call Kamala Harris, in so many words, ignorant, an idiot is what he called her. And I was talking to one of my friends from the other persuasion who is a pro-Trumper. And I was telling him that karma, if you believe in karma, in this case would be real. Because not only did he lose to that septuagenarian Joe Biden, he lost to the idiot Kamala Harris. So, and it was just one of those things. Cranston's business is housing. We both are in housing. And we understand how important it is. And in my Sunday school, we talk about all the time how at the end of the year, it's going to be so many people put out on the street. These people don't have anywhere to go. Nowhere to go.
Absolutely.
And Biden has a plan for that, just like he has a plan for enhancing education, which is another story. But Cranston, what are the ramifications of the Republicans still have the House with so many people across the country, not only in Dallas, Texas, but across the country who are going to lose?
Absolutely. It's been many studies that came out. One of the last ones that I've seen, it said that 1 in every 6 people now, whether it's dealing with renters or whether it's dealing with a mortgage, are behind or have been affected by COVID. And last time back after the Great Recession, Biden and Obama got handed a bad hand. And so Biden does have some experience in it. And I think I said this before on the last. But what I look for is there's an underlying thing of power that we're looking for that Georgia can help to be able to achieve. The power of the party that's in it. This is who won. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they won. So in order to be able to have them to be able to wield the power to bring about the change that they see, because the nation spoke. That's just the bottom line. And they said, you know what? The person that's in there right now, we do not want that person in here. So that's why we're calling upon the people in Georgia to be able to echo that, to say, if the country spoke by the popular vote and by the Electoral College that just voted on Monday and said, you know what, we don't want these shenanigans that have been going on, we don't want them going on any longer. So they spoke up and they voted. And that's what we're asking Georgia to do, to be able to help the administration that's going in to be able to wield the power that they need to be able to get some things done. Because if you're just there and, like, you know, you ever tossed around the word lame duck presidency, that's terrible, because you need to be able to hold someone accountable. Like Kamala is a person that's Black, that's going to be there in the White House. This is the second person. Now we had the Obama family, and now we have Kamala Harris. And so the first time, just because of how Black people in the community, you know, we're like, well, you know, that person is in power, so, you know, we might not want to ask them for nothing, because, you know, they having to try to, for lack of a better way to put it, shuck and jive to be able to do what they need to do. But this is the second time now, so maybe we could say Obama went through that. You know, he went through, and, you know, we didn't feel comfortable asking anything, but now we can ask, we can demand. And I've read Biden's plan. And I read what he said he was going to do. When Biden camp texted me and asked me, now we were just talking about a while ago about people speaking up for people. As you know, personally, I'm on a national board as a coalition for reparations. People say, oh man, you know, I don't know if we're going to get in reparations. If you look at the many other people in this country and many countries around the world that atrocities have been committed against them, those people have received some sort of reparations. But when it comes to Black people receiving reparations or receiving something where they were ill and wrong, then people are kind of, you know, laid back. So me, I'm an advocate for it. I make no bones about it. I have a bunch of statistical data to be able to show people what happened and what we should be doing. And so that's why we're looking at Georgia, to be able to say they can put the Senate into the power, and they can bring that power in through Biden and Kamala Harris. Because as I was saying a while ago, when they text me, I asked them, I say, well, what is their position on reparations? What's Joe Biden's position on reparations? He said, well, he does support HR 40, which, peace be upon John Conyers, who during this enslavement institution, we talk about it, you get 2 or 3 pages about it in school, but they said they need to have a study. That's what the government always does. After 9/11, they had a study, the 9/11 Commission. So that's what we have to do. So that's what we're saying, is that if we're looking to be able to hold them accountable for anything, for that, for the economy, for the housing potential crisis that might happen, because the CDC's moratorium is going to expire on the 31st, this month. So we don't have too much longer, you know. And so with that, you know, in economics and in real estate, we said that there's always a shift and a transition of wealth. And a lot of times they say it happens through one of my real estate brokers. He's the oldest Black commercial real estate firm here in Dallas. He would say that during the savings and loan crisis of the 80s, there was a transfer of wealth. And he noted different accounts in history that there's been a transfer of wealth. And so what we are saying is that we don't want that to happen this time. We need the people in to be able to wield the power to say, no, it's not going to be a transfer of wealth. We want to help people hold on to the assets that they have and the wealth that they've accumulated.
So let me piggyback on what the brother said about why we need the power, and I keep going back. I'm glad you mentioned reparations, because my students now, for the first time in 5 years, I've gotten a sense that we need reparations and that reparations are possible. 5 years ago, people were saying, "Can we get it?" Yes, we can. Contract principles, right? You owe somebody tort, you breach it, you owe them damages. That's a whole other issue. But I want us to go back to this idea of power. And as Black people, how we often place the acknowledgement of powers in elected officials, and we don't often broaden the concept of power. So everybody has seen that there have been breaches on federal agencies by the Russians, right? Everybody's been reading that. Major breaches, not little in the back door, but breaches such that Russians can take over, assume identities. I mean, you name the agency, from the Treasury, which has the Secret Service under it. Every major federal agency has a breach. Okay, that is an area where, whether you are conservative, progressive, or ratchet right, everyone can agree you don't want a thief sneaking around your underwear drawer. That's just it, okay? It's just it. Biden, as the executive branch, controls foreign attitudes, policy. No one can control that but the executive power. And so one of the things that, if we get the senators elected in Georgia, that you trade on, is that there is a strong president, not, and I use the term wussy, not someone who is afraid to wield power. And I think part of the message that we have to give, as you said, brother, you said, we believe in these things, housing, no transfer of wealth. You can't come out and release that, which I think they did on purpose, a leak from the civil rights community where Biden is speaking. It sounds like I'm speaking against Biden. I'm not. Where he's telling the civil rights leaders, well, let's be clear on this reform, the police, we have to go slow, or some language he used. You are not going to get the young brothers out unless you have a strong, definitive stance on transforming power. So if you don't like the term defund the police, you have to say abolish, right? Abolish criminal behavior in the police department. You have to drive it home. So I stand with all of the progressives and the radicals and the moderates who say that there has to be a transformation in power. And we get that from our leader, which Black people all too often say, this is our one leadership and this is where we go. The leadership that was there before, as you said, nobody wants. If we want new leadership, we have to be able to send the message. We want this. It's going to change your life, right? It's going to change your life if you vote. Not just that we need your vote. It's going to change your life, because the man in power is going to make sure that, just like the young brother that got gunned down in his grandmother's doorway, right? Gunned in his, and he had a sandwich in his hand, right? Where are our leaders on that? So it's not that I am not opposed to the incoming administration. I voted for them, I support them, but I'm saying to our Georgia folks, this is the message. We can't be afraid of the message of transformation. We cannot. And I teach young people. right? I teach them, right? I teach some old, but basically from 21 through 33, that's the group I teach. And so you all know it, you all are near that age group. Are not involved, you have to reach them where their heart is. What's in it for me? A transformed life is in it for you. And I think if we are emissaries for Biden and Harris, we have to say that. We have to hold them accountable to the message, and we have to say that. I do not want my sons gunned down in the doorway. I don't want my grandsons gunned down in the doorway. I want people who want to own, God forbid, a McDonald's franchise, God forbid, since I don't eat meat, God forbid, right? Using the Lord. But that if you are a youngster and you want to own a franchise or a corporation of franchises, you have the opportunity to do so, because the wealth in this country, the banks, right, which Biden, was from Delaware, supported, the banks have an open door policy for you, not just because you don't have $50,000 in the bank, but because you got sweat equity. I digress. My point being to my Georgia folk is that we have to carry that message to them, that there is going to be a changed world order if you vote. That these two senators that we're pushing are going to get there, not just to give power to what's already there, but to give power to us. I think that's the message. And I truly believe that that's what's going to change. That's going to empower the change. And we have to hold Biden and Harris accountable for that message.
Got to.
That's the message I believe. We have to say, whoa, wait a minute. Those blue dog that blue dog Democrats that you mentioned that got defeated, it's because they weren't on message. They were, we call them Republican light. Okay.
What I'm kind of excited about is to see how many new faces and how much young blood has skin in the game. From the, I'm calling young. We've been here a minute, but for instance, the representative online now, I'm so proud to see your generation has stepped up and has stepped into place. You've accepted the baton, and there are more and more like you guys. And that makes the building not in vain. And I'm so proud to see that. And I'm so proud to see how articulate the young group is and how knowledgeable you are. And that's not only impressive, but it's safe for us that when it's time for us to say, like John Lewis, my work is done, we don't have to fret because we know it's in good hands. All you young Georgians and old Georgians and in between Georgians, um, your vote is so important because you have finally realized the power of the people. You're like the blade of grass. One blade is ineffective, but when you put them all together, that carpet that's formed makes a lush um, um, place for a golf to be played and feet to feel on. So it's so exciting to see the unity because that is where the Bible say the blessings come. So it's we join forces with you to let you know that all across America, nay, all across the world, people are rooting for democracy, and democracy is in your hands. So I just wanted to let all the young politicians and the young community activists and the young workers to know that those of us who've been in here for a minute, we are so proud to be able to join hands and to watch you. Our goal is not to hold you back. Our goal is not to tie you down, but to promote you, in some cases to mentor you, to nurture you, but then to watch our house, our collective house being built as you do what you got to do. So voting for these two senators is so very important. That's all I had to say.
I'm going to have to go off after I run my mouth and go, you guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Brenda Ray. I was gonna make a comment about Biden's plan for higher education. And I don't know, Lorraine, you might know better how he's gonna forgive those, that student loan debt. And they're trying their best not to make sure that happens, but it's so essential.
Well,
But
oh, go
he,
ahead.
I believe him when he says his goal is to build back America and make it better. And to use the words of Elijah Cummings, like he said, we're better than this. And I want to add one more to that. We deserve better than what we've been given. And he has a plan to build back America and make it better, because the other guy said, make America great again. That didn't happen. If making America great again is disenfranchising all African Americans, vote, killing our dreams, and ignoring us in the legislature, that's not making America great again. But I know we've been on now for a minute, and I just want to thank the whole panel and everybody for coming out and participating in this. And I think we made a point to Georgia about why it is important that they get out and vote. And we showed it passionately. So
Absolutely.
does anybody have anything else they want to say?
I got a question. If we don't, if the Senate race doesn't go like we want, is Biden going to be able to get his cabinet members approved? Doesn't the Senate have to vote on the cabinet appointments that he makes?
Yep.
So basically,
Yes.
all of these people that we have lined up to do things, you know, the African American gentleman, the Native American lady that's going to be our Secretary of the Interior, Pete Buttigieg, right? All of those people. These people who have, and I have to give Biden credit. He's definitely trying to do these things. Okay. You know, as far as making a cabinet that is somewhat so diversified.
Right.
Somewhat
So let me throw this out here. I always draw. I'm the one on the edge, right? So Clyburn, who ostensibly delivered South Carolina to him, had a major ask, and that was for Marva Flood, I think that Flood, right, to be the head of the Department of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture is the second largest federal agency in the government. It wields money and power. He didn't give it to him. He didn't get what Cliven asked for. He picked Millsap. Is that Millsap is the name? Someone who had been there before, okay? So this is the part of what I was arguing for, that we put our hopes in people, and of course they diversified. Of course he did this, but it's the big ask, like Department of Agriculture, and my favorite, what? The Attorney General. The Attorney General, right? The biggest barking dog in the room. Those positions affect Black people at such high levels. That's something that we have to start looking at our leadership about. And yes, to answer your question, Kapani, if he doesn't get the Senate, he doesn't get these folk approved. Definitely not going to get that, the gentleman, and I don't remember his name, for Department of Defense, because some of their own Democrats don't want him. So he's, you know, that's like what people are arguing. He put his name up so he could put a female up next. I'm just putting that out there.
You have to give him credit. He is really trying to make his cabinet reflect the diversity in the country.
Definitely
He's really trying. Now, whether he gets it or not, you know, I'm afraid of that as well.
He should have given the Department of Agriculture to her, and he should give the Attorney General slot to someone. They don't have to have melanin in their skin. They have to have melanin in their heart.
Right,
Okay,
right.
that's my position, because we got a lot of crazy folk out here. Okay,
Right.
who wear,
Now
you know, their color. Okay,
Georgia, you
so
all helped him. You all helped him get to where he is today. Even though they tried to, my attorney general tried to take it away.
They
So,
all
yeah.
they
The
all
Supreme
signed up
Court.
on that, Auntie.
The
They all
Supreme
signed.
Court was another issue. I was so afraid that the Supreme Court, the 3 justices that Trump put on the court, were going to rule for him.
You gotta
But
expand the court. You gotta expand the Supreme Court.
I'm with Brenda on that.
You gotta expand the Supreme Court.
Pack it.
Okay,
I'm
unpack
with
the
Brenda on
court
that one.
and make DC and Puerto Rico a state.
A state. I'm with you on that one.
All right, folks, I have muddied the water enough. Georgia, right? I support you. Everybody on here, thank you all for having political thoughts, because it's refreshing for our people to be engaged. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Mr. Brother Akabulan. Is that how? Tell me how to pronounce your name.
Akibalon.
Akibalon.
Akibalon. Thank you, Brother Akibalon. And my sister, Alibet, and my cousin, Deborah, and my son. I thank you all so much. Gotta go, great papers, give all A's, right? Give all A's.
Okay, so with Brenda Ray leaving, pretty much say that I feel like we've accomplished the goal here.
I think so.
You know, I think
so.
this panel and what we're sending to Georgia is worth more than $1 million. And Facebook all up and down the state of Georgia. So, and that is our contribution. We're so proud of you. Again, I have to keep apologizing, but Georgia has not been blue since Clinton.
92.
Since 1992, since Clinton. And you all put your minds to it. You got to tip your hat to our sister over there, Stacey Abrams.
Yes.
They messed over her, and like my grandmother used to say, you could show them a whole lot better than you can tell them, because that's exactly what she did. So, good night. Remember, early voting is already ongoing in Georgia, and the election is the 5th of January. The election.
That's the day my wife was born. That's a good day, Georgia, you know?
So,
Show 'em
well,
what you
okay.
got.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. And we look forward to, we may have to do this again if the polls come out and it looks like Georgia is not turning out to vote.
We're going to do like Ray Charles. We're going to have Georgia on the mind.
We got
right,
Georgia on our minds.
That's it.
All indications are that the Georgians are out voting in full force right now. All the polls say right now that the early voting is up in all over the state of Georgia. And you know that bodes well for Democrats. That always bodes well for us doing early voting because we're pandemic minded. You know, we believe in the science of not getting sick and wanting to have our democratic rights pursued to the fullest. So for all intents and purposes, it's starting off real well, God willing.
They said that the absentee ballots, they've been more requests for absentee ballots than in the general election. So I hope they don't try to disenfranchise all of those absentee ballots.
Wow.
But to try to get back in the good graces of somebody who shall remain nameless. But anyway,
Georgia on our mind.
Georgia, you're on our minds, and go for it. And we're so proud of you. I know that this is a very difficult situation and a tall task because the weight of the country rests on your shoulders. The future of the presidency rests on your shoulders. Okay, well, thank you very much. We're out.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless everyone. Be careful.